This is going to be a video about new TC2 weapons that I came up with. There's only one weapon that I did not come up with, or I got inspiration from another game about it, but we'll get to that later. But each weapon will get a minimum of one new weapon, and if it is on the internet, is pure coincidence that we have the same idea. And Dorcas Digital, if you are watching this, you are allowed to take any, if not all, items. I really do not care. I think new weapons in this game would be great. Oh yeah, this is heavily inspired by Great Blues series, but unlike him, I will not be drawing the items. So getting into it, let's start with Scout. So Scout is getting a secondary. He's only getting one new weapon, and that's going to be called the Backup Backpack. As dumb as that sounds, I came up with every single stupid name you will see in this video. It is on your back, so you have like a 25% switch speed. As you put it on your back, you can kind of holster and put your weapons away faster. I kind of came up with it. Scout was hard to come up with something. He has pretty good stuff overall, so he was probably the hardest. You also get a 10% reload speed, as the bullets are probably on the backpack. You can kind of put it in your shotgun. And you jump less higher because, well, it's a backpack. It's going to weigh you down at least. The lore for this weapon is that outside of combat, Flanker plays baseball, and this is his backpack, and he decided, you know what would be a cool idea? Bringing this to the battlefield to be an idiot. So, yeah, so kind of this. Again, I don't have any way to test these changes, or test these things, so all things are subject to change. Moving on to Soldier, we have the Battlefront Backbone. 20% faster fire rate with 20% less fall off, like the splash damage fall off. It's its entire clip at once. You do have a 3-second reload speed, or a 3-second reload, minus 50% explosion radius, and a 15% damage penalty from players and buildings. This weapon, I feel would be great. It's like a quad rocket launcher kind of thing, you know. Lore for this is that Trooper was tired of reloading while his team did the killing on the front lines, so he asked Mechanic to make something so he could spend more time on the front lines. Yeah, that's Soldier. As a main, I thought I'd come up with something better, but I came up with that. Moving on to Pyro, he has two new weapons. So we'll start with this new flamethrower. Holding up the fire will charge up its flame meter, sort of like the holding down the sticky bomb launchers, as you'll hold that up and they'll fire farther. However, with this, you'll once it's full, you can unleash it, hold left click to sort of release a devastating blow. So yeah, and you have a 30% faster fire rate with that, once you let go of the trigger. Air Blast will send back projectiles 25% faster, and it will push players a lot farther back instead of how it is in the game currently, sort of like a T2 Air Blast where people go flying back, that sort of thing. But going back to the holding fire, it takes 5 seconds to fully charge the primary fire, and Air Blast will take 2 seconds to charge, which we'll get into that in a second. Air Blast has 2 charges, but they will fill up over time, just like the darts for the syringe SMG, I believe. Just like left click, holding the right click will charge up the Air Blast meter, which once you let go of that, you will do what I said earlier, which is Air Blast projectiles back 25% faster and people. Air blast. Each air blast bar takes 3.5 seconds to recharge, so it'll take like 7 seconds to get both air blasts. Air blasts. You have minus 50% fire range, not air blast, just fire range. You have 75% less afterburn duration, and sort of like the Wrecker's Yard, holding right or left click will for more than 2 seconds will deal a misfire, dealing 75 damage to yourself. Now, of course, this weapon seems busted, and it probably is, which is kind of why we maybe like no less or no afterburn for this weapon would be nice. Or maybe like it will take more seconds to fully fire to fully charge to fire. So that's kind of what I have. Lore, nothing really. It's just you are all dominated. But yeah, this weapon definitely needs some play testing, even though I can't. Moving on to his second weapon, which is a secondary. He actually gets his own specific class shotgun, as each person with a shotgun has their own specific one. Like, Soldier has the reserve shooter, Heavy has the sub shotgun, Engineer has like the rescue ranger, and Pyro's gonna have the barbecue maker. Oh wait, forgot to mention this. The name for the flamethrower is the fire starter. Moving back. Upon dealing 30 damage to one person, it will set them on fire. You have to deal 30 damage in a single shot to them to set them ablaze, not just like pellet them for more than 30 damage. Weapons 30% more accurate. You deal 15% damage per pellet. I'm not doing the math, so good luck. An extra 15% damage to burning players. Now, we could probably just get rid of the damage to burning players and give it like more damage, or just maybe give it a damage penalty and give it like mini crits on burning players, but at the same time, I mean, flamethrower would probably do better. Weapon only is 4 shots, 50% more flawless, minus 15% fire rate, and a minus 20% reload speed penalty. Dinner is served. This weapon, I feel, actually would be a nice little thing, as like, instead of like trying to hit a flare, you can just like hit a shotgun shot, which isn't that bad, but like, like maybe we can give it like more, like less ramp up, so that way it doesn't outclass the flares. But either or, this is this is a shotgun for Pyro. Moving on to a Annihilator, or demo, however you call it. I call it demo. Huey is the second hardest to actually make something, as he has a pretty balanced kit, but I ultimately went with the cooldown. Hitting someone will give them a lemonade effect within the blast zone, probably based on how close they are to the blast. They'll probably get like a second effect. Like if you're close to, you're like directly on the sticky, you get 8 seconds. If you're like on the edge of the explosion zone, you get like 2 seconds. It has 50% more range, meaning the stickies can go farther, and it can extinguish teammates. Now, minus 7 max stickies out, a 65 damage penalty, and 50% less splash radius. And sticky jumping will result in you being covered in lemonade. This weapon's more, I feel, going to be for more offensive rather than the other sticky bomb launchers, as they kind of just build sticky traps, because that's all they're pretty much good for, unless they're spamming on the cart. Then there's that. But yeah, I think the minus 7 stickies out isn't that bad, because okay, it's kind of bad, to be honest. It's sort of, well, it's gonna be covering people in lemonade, so why should you be able to have like 8 lemonade stickies out, or Like, we could probably move that to like 6 stickies if possible, maybe, but I think 1 isn't that bad. Just like the ultimatum, like the P grenade launcher for demo. Once you hit a direct pipe, you deal pretty much the same damage if you hit them with another shot. So I made it so that way, instead of pretty much getting your damage back, you get like 30% of your damage, or 35% of your damage back, and you still have a 30% damage penalty, so you can not really destroy people as you would with the ultimatum. This is going to be, I feel like this would be more like a support tool, and of course minus 70% splash radius, because covering like 20 people in P or lemonade like really close to each other would be like kind of overpowered. Lore, he was Demo was juggling one of Marksman's lemonades, and he decided to shove one into a sticky launcher to see if it would actually shoot. And so enough he did, so he got to work making the cooldown. So that is demos. Moving on to moving on to heavy, we have the Biker's Scrap. Okay, listen. I had 2 other ideas for heavy, and they both were really overpowered. So you're gonna take this one, and you're gonna call it a day. So 150 max health while the armor isn't broken. Backstabs and headshots will deal 75% less damage when the armor is not broken. You move 50% slower, but the armor breaks. You move at your original speed. Now, once you hit 300 health, the armor will break, and you cannot get it back for another 45 seconds. So once those 45 seconds are up, you can either get a health kit to, sort of get that health back once it is back, or maybe we can make it so that way ammo packs will refresh or like slightly bring down the cooldown so you can have it faster, maybe. Now this weapon, I didn't say if it was primary or secondary because I wanted it to, I couldn't really think of an idea for which one it should go to, so I think it should go to both the primary and the secondary slots. So you can pick whichever one you want, but if it's in the primary spot, you reload 30% slower. So it's, if you want to try Fat Scout, I mean, it's not the worst thing to bring, but it still hits hard because you get like a lot more health. If it's in the secondary slot, you have half of your minigun ammo, so you can't you get a sort of like actually bad. Well, it's not that bad, but it's sort of like a couple of nerfs to make sure that heavy isn't, Jesus around the map and not dying. His lore is because he was tired of backstabs and headshots, he took his bike apart to make some armor, and he cried because it was his favorite bike, and he made armor out of it. So yeah, that's sort of it. Moving on to engineer, he actually gets 2 new weapons. So let's go with the Ultima Optornuta. I don't know. Let's be honest. I used a translator for this one because he has an achievement called Mu Facili. I don't remember what the achievement's called, but I'm probably butchering it. There's supposed to be an apostrophe above the U, but I couldn't get that for some reason, and it means like, what did it mean? Last chance or something. And the Moi Facim achievement, or Facili achievement, you're supposed to get a kill with the last bullet in a clip, and then this is what this weapon is based off of. The last bullet in the clip deals a critical hit. It is 20% more accurate and 50% fire rate. Now, you might be thinking, what if people just like, hold on to that last bullet in the clip because, well, it reloads while not active, because I thought of that because people are jerks sometimes. You only have 6 bullets in the clip, so I mean you get it faster, but like at what cost? 15% damage penalty and 50% more fall off. This weapon's sort of like a last resort kind of weapon, as you don't really want this thing out because you kind of want it to, well, you have a shotgun, but maybe we could tack on like a reload speed penalty so you're not like, you know, overpowered in a way or a sense. And the lore is nothing really interesting. It's just, I told you, bowl for brains is to get out of here. You're not wanted. So that's the Ultima or Platoon. I'm not even gonna butcher it. Some people are gonna get mad at that. You know how broken the Wrangler is in the in TF2? Yeah, let's add that to this, actually. This weapon's called the Last Line of Defense, where looking at one of your buildings will give it a 70% resistance to all damage. Except sappers. Sappers will completely negate this effect. You will take, once this thing is pulled out, you will take 50% more damage when it is out. So if you're trying to keep this thing, like, your buildings alive, you can't really, you know, sort of, like, if you're trying to repair your buildings and you have just pointing at it while it's like taking a rocket, you still can like get destroyed really easily by like most weapons in the game. But I think this actually would be a nice little feature, as you don't get to aim your sentry. It's sort of you look at something and you can get gunned down by like spies, snipers, scouts, like anything, and sort of, you know, like sort of a you can tell it's my first time doing this kind of stuff. It's sort of a, you know, a counter to his counters, I guess. Maybe we can make it so that way once you stop looking at it, buildings are disabled for a couple seconds and they take more damage, maybe. But I think like a sort of weapon to like protect his buildings longer would be nice for him. Maybe he can make us that like buildings take like more metal to like either upgrade, construct, or that kind of thing, maybe for this. But that's engineer. Moving on to, I think doctor's next. This weapon is going to be like the syringe crossbow kind of thing. It's going to be called the Overclock. I was going to call this the Overkill, but that sounded stupid. And then I was going to name it the Overdrive, and I realized that's also a weapon in the game. So Overclock it is. So at close range, you can heal 100% HP to a teammate from close range at a 300 and 300 from long range. Shots remove any negative effect. Your ammo pool consists of 5 shots totally. And this weapon does not auto reload out of combat with a 3-second reload, and requires and takes 10% supercharge per shot. Now this weapon is kind of a burst healing, where if you're like a passive player, it's sort of the, do I want to keep my team alive or do I want to pop an Uber? And I feel like this would be really good because you could, most of the time when I play Doctor, I can't get to my teammate in time, and it's because he's on like 2 HP, and this weapon's gonna like stop like afterburn, lemonade, and bleeding, even though you usually never see bleeding in this game. So yeah, that's that. This weapon, since it heals a lot, you only have like a certain amount of shots and doesn't reload out of combat, so you can't just like have 100 health on standby. You gotta actually reload it, and you can decide either to reload it or to heal your team. So it's kind of a what are you gonna do kind of weapon. And it takes supercharge per shot because, let's be honest, 100 HP for all those buffs is kind of a, you know, kind of thing, or kind of good thing. And then another good thing I can see from this is when you're, well, like, you have 20 teammates on you all asking to be healed, you can just like pop one of these on a person and then continue healing the others. so that way they can get into the fight faster. So, yeah, so that's going to be this weapon. And Lore, after his team was yelling at him every 5 seconds to heal them, he created this to shut them up and heal them fast. So that's the overclock. Okay, moving on to Sniper. Now, this weapon is based off of, well, I got inspiration from El Diablo from The Last of Us, and this weapon is called the Barber. You deal 25 damage per shot and can scope to do a headshot, which will deal 75 damage, and it will reload out of combat. Headshots without scoping deal mini crits, so it's kind of like a sniper rifle, and the AE-50 kind of had a child, or the 50 AE had a child. And you pull it out 30% faster. You only have one shot in the clip. You reload at 30%. You have a 30% slower reload speed, and you cannot headshot outside of 60 studs, and you put it away 30% slower. So it's kind of like a mid to close range kind of weapon, where it's like, well, the AE-50 is really good if you are really skilled, actually. So I feel like this weapon, you could do like a follow-up shot to someone. You can shoot someone in the head and then like melee them. If this seems overpowered, we could possibly like get rid of the mini crit headshots without scoping. Maybe like you pull it out and pull it out slower and put it away faster. Maybe I'm not, like I said, I just can't play test these things because, well, I can't. So that's the Barber. After hunting while not on the front lines, he decided to that his work was on the front lines is hunting other people's heads, so he brought it to work. Okay, Spy. This weapon was the hardest to make because I don't want to make something overpowered. I don't want to make something underpowered. I don't want to make something stupid. But I think this is stupid, so I'm going to tell you. I actually, after coming up with this, I did have a couple of ideas, but I didn't have time to make it, so I kind of, here I am, just telling you about the Disguiser. This will take, oh yeah, the Barber is a secondary, by the way. I don't know if I need to say that, but yeah, it's a secondary. While you are disguised, you are able to swap between the weapons class, or the class's weapons. Like in TF2, you can swap between the primary, secondary, melee. You will not scream when you are shot, and you are able to look like you're healing someone, sniping, shooting, and swinging melee. Replaces the Sapper, no resistances while cloaked or disguised, and a minus 50% cloak speed. Or cloak meter. This does sound overpowered. We could take out a couple things like the shooting and swinging a melee, but I feel like disguises in TC2 don't fool people as much as TF2, because in TF2 there's just like a little dot for sniper where you have where sniper you have a like a dot. In like TC2 you have like a full-on line for sniper, and if you're not sniping in TC2 you're most likely gonna get shot. And yeah, it's kind of like I feel like that change for this would be really good, and look like you're healing people. I feel like it would be a really good cool feature too, as you're fooling someone. We could maybe add like you get pushed back more or something, but like I feel like this weapon is sort of a cool little feature, and of course it takes place of the Sapper, which, I mean, Sapper's pretty powerful, but like I feel like this kind of makes it better but worse in a way, sort of thing. Tired of being found out because she couldn't swap weapons, Agent downloaded an app to allow her to. And that's sort of all of the weapons I could think of. If you think this video was stupid, please let me know in the comments what you would have done to actually fix some of these classes. That I'd love to hear your feedback, because Jesus, these weapons probably need some fixes. But I feel like if these were added to the game, like not as powerful, but like at least new weapons, like a lot of them, that would be really cool actually. And I hope you all have a great day actually. Goodbye everyone.